Hi everyone, I'm Jonathan Lam and welcome to How to Animate an Urban Rainstorm in Adobe After Effects. Using a street painting by Basem Salah, we'll teach you how to add these stormy animations to your scene. Topics we cover will include how to animate a wet floor surface with rain splashes and ripple effects, how to animate rain particles bouncing off a surface, and how to animate stormy rain. By the end of the course, you'll have a better understanding of these tools and how to animate an urban rainstorm in Adobe After Effects. So sign up and let's get started. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Urban Rain Animation course. In this lesson, we'll learn how to animate the wet floor surface of our painting and give it some splashes and ripple effects. So let's get started by first importing our Photoshop file by going to File, Import, and then selecting File. And then we need to navigate to the location of our PSD file or image, select it. Make sure to import as footage and to create a composition, and then click import. Once we've done that, we have some new options here. We need to make sure that we're importing as a composition to retain the layer sizes if it's a PSD file, as this will make sure that we keep the sizes of our layers if we have any. And then we want to make sure that editable layer styles is selected in layer options, and then click OK. Excellent. Now, once we've done that, you'll see that we've got our image shown here, and we've got an urban scene composition here that we can double click into. And if we had any layers, you'll see that our layers are all layered and in order down here. Excellent. Now, if you're using a painting without any layers, don't worry. This technique taught in this course will remain the same. However, adding layers to your scene can give you more options depending on the image, which you'll see soon. So let's just go ahead and double check our composition settings here very quickly. So just right click on the tab here and then select composition settings. And over here, we want to make sure that the duration of our animation is set to however long you want it to last for. So for this example, we're going to make our animation last for 5 minutes, like so. And then once you've done that, click OK. Excellent. Now that we've imported our environment, let's go ahead and animate it, starting with the wet floor and ripple effects. Now to do this, we need to first create a gray solid layer. So let's go ahead and click Layer, New, and select Solid. And over here, we can rename our solid layer. So let's go ahead and name this Rain Floor. And over here, we want to choose a color for it. So we want to choose a mid-gray color. So something like 7F, 7D, 7F, and then click OK. Then once you've chosen your color, click OK again. And now you'll see that we've got this gray solid on top of all our layers, like so. Excellent. Now, once we've done that, let's go ahead and convert the rain floor layer into a 3D layer by clicking on the small cube icon here. Now, if you don't see this, just make sure that we have the layers switches pane here at the bottom left of the screen turned on, like that. And then you can select the small cube icon. Now, by turning our layer into a 3D layer, we now have the option to rotate this layer by using the rotate tool up here. So now let's go ahead and move it along and rotate it along the y-axis like so, or along the x-axis like so, and then just using these rotational tools and also a combination of the selection tool, which is V on the keyboard, to move it down, we can go ahead and align this to the bottom of our floor in our image here. So just going to go ahead and use the rotation tool like so, and then just lowering it down on the Z axis like that, and also rotating it around like so. Excellent. And now let's just move it back in the Y to see what it looks like in our image. So just move it further down there again, like so. And this might need a little bit more rotation along the X. Awesome. So just play about with these two tools here, the rotation tool, which is W on the keyboard, and the selection tool, which is V on the keyboard, until you find the perfect spot for your plane alignment to your image. And then once you're happy with the placement of your plane, the next thing that we want to do is we want to start adding the effects. Now to do this, we want to make sure that the rain floor layer is still selected, and then we want to go to Effect, Simulation, and then we want to add CC Drizzle onto our plane, like so. Now straight away, you'll see that it has these cool little ripple effects added to this layer. Now at this point, you may want to change the scale of the floor so that the size of the ripples are scaled correctly to the painting. So to do this, just open up the rain floor layer here, like so. And then we want to go to Transform, open up the Transform options, and then we can go over to Scale and just clicking and dragging the values here, we can make our plane bigger or smaller, and then you can see how this affects the size of the ripples on the floor, like so. So we just make the size of the ripples a little bit smaller by making our plane, let's say something like 70%. You can also enter the values by clicking on it and then entering a value on your keyboard, like so. Now, once you're happy with the scale of your plane here, the next thing we want to do is we want to head over to the Effects and Effect Controls panel here and just play about with the options for CC Drizzle. So here we want to change the drip rate to 5 just to add a few more drips or ripples here. So you can see if I make this a little bit bigger, you can see how that's added some more ripples and drips to our plane, like so. And then next we want to open up the light options here, and we want to change the light intensity from 100 all the way up to 1000, just to make our ripples show up a little bit more, like so. So you can see as we decrease the ripples, as we decrease the light intensity, bring it back to 100, you'll see that they're quite faded out. So if we bring it all the way back to 1000, you'll be able to see them a lot clearer. Now, they might be a little bit too clear for now as you look at it on the grey surface, but once we change the blending mode of our layer, this will push the light back, making it look more natural. Now, once you're happy with the look of this effect, let's go ahead and use a motion tile to cover the rest of the floor. Now to do this, make sure again that the rain floor layer is selected, and then we want to go to Effect, find Stylize, and from here we want to select Motion Tile. Now this will add motion tile to the rain floor layer here. And over here in the effects control panel, we want to go ahead and make sure that mirror edges is selected. And then we can increase the output width like so. So if I zoom out here, we can see that we can change the value of the output width to make it longer across our scene. And also the output height here, just to make it go all the way to the edge of where the pavement is, like so. Excellent. Now you'll see here in this particular image, more layers to your painting might come in handy, as we can now place our rain floor layer below our foreground image here to make it look like it's blended in more to the painting itself. And now finally, to blend the effect to our painting. So first of all, let's go ahead and make sure that the transfer controls pane is opened up like so. And then we can go to the blending mode of our rain floor layer and change it from normal. And let's change it to overlay, like so. And you'll see as we zoom here, the rain ripple effects and splashes have now blended in to our painting. So we can turn them on and off, like so. Excellent. And now if we go over to the preview panel here and click on the play button, you'll see that we've now added this cool wet floor with some rain ripple effects added to our painting. Excellent. So that's it for this video. In the next video, we'll learn how to animate the rain particles bouncing off of hard surfaces, such as the car here, and also the rain covers at the top here. See you all in the next video. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Urban Rain Animation course. In this lesson, we'll learn how to animate some rain particles bouncing off some hard surfaces, such as the top of the car here, and also the top of the rain covers here. So let's start by creating a new solid again. So go to Layer, New, and select Solid. And in the solid settings, let's rename this Rain Bounce. And here we want to change the color to a pure black, like so. Once you're happy with that, go ahead and click OK. Now with the layer still selected, we want to go to Effect, go to Simulation, and we want to select CC Particle Systems 2. Now if we zoom out here, and let's zoom out here and move the timeline further along, you'll see that the particles have been added to this layer and what they look like. Now in its default setting, you'll see that it looks like a fountain of yellow lines, like so. So in order to change the look of these particles, we need to go to the Effect Controls panel here. And we want to go ahead and open up the particle options, which is found here, like so. Now, once we've opened this up, the first thing that we want to change is the color of our particles. So let's go ahead and change the birth color from yellow to pure white, like so. And then for the death color, let's go ahead and select the death color here, and we want to change the death color to a sort of grayish blue, so something like BBAAC4, like so, and then click OK. Now let's go ahead and change the producer options. So let's go ahead and close this and open up the producer options here. And this is where the particles comes out from. So opening this up, you can see that we can change the radius of the X and the Y, as well as the position of the producer. So let's go ahead and change the X radius of our producer here, and this will, you'll see how this is making the producer look like the particles are coming out from a flat plane or a surface instead of a single point like we had before. So let's go ahead and stretch this out to something like 40. So we can also add a value here just by clicking on the value and inputting it into our keyboard. And from here, let's go ahead and decrease the birth rate. So from here, let's select the birth rate and change it from 4 to something like 0.6, just to reduce the amount of particles shown here. Now, once we've done that, the next thing we want to do is play about with the physics options. So let's go ahead and open up the physics options here. And from here, we want to change the gravity. Now, you'll see how the particles are sort of moving downwards, and we want to create a bounce. So the particles need to move upwards. So let's change the gravity here and move it down. So you'll see how the particles are now slowly moving up. So let's change it to minus 0.5, like so. And now you'll see the particles are moving upwards. And we'll also change the longevity here from 2 to, let's say, 1, like so, just to reduce the amount of particles and reduce the lifespan of our particles. And this will also help, hopefully, make the rain bounces look a little bit more realistic, just bouncing up from the surface instead of flying up into the sky. Now from here, we also want to change the velocity. So let's change the velocity from 1 to 0.2. And you'll see now how the particles are getting smaller and smaller. And hopefully they will be able to fit in with our landscape here. And then at this point, all it is just playing about with the values of the options that we just discussed. So things like the birth rate and the longevity, just to come up with a look for the bouncing rain that you want that suits your image. So I'm just going to change the birth rate to 0.6, and let's change the longevity all the way down just to reduce the height of our particle bounces. So let's change it to 0.2. And let's go back to the producer here, and we want to make sure that our radius in the Y is set to 0, just to make sure that our surface looks as flat as possible, depending on the look of your painting. And then all we need to do here is just click on the play button to see what our bouncers look like. Excellent. So I'm quite liking the look of that. The next thing we want to do from here is we want to apply this into our painting. So to do this, we need to select our rain bounce layer and pre-comp it by right-clicking and then selecting pre-compose. And then we want to just name this rain bounce again, and make sure to select move all attributes into the new composition. Select this and then select OK. And now with this comp, we can use the select and rotate tools again, just to move it into place. So let's use the select tool, make sure we've selected the rain bounce composition, and then just move it into place. So let's begin by moving it along the rain covers here. And I'm just going to use the rotate tool here, just to rotate it slightly so that it fits in with the angle of the cover, like so. Then once we're happy with that, we want to go ahead and select the pen tool here, and we're going to use the pen tool to mask out the areas that we don't want to be shown. Now you can see that we've got an area here to the left and to the right where the rain bounces are still showing, which doesn't make sense. So let's use the pen tool to mask those bits out, like so. And then once you've done that, all we need to do is go ahead and duplicate this. So select the rain bounce composition, press Ctrl D to duplicate, and then just use the select tool to move it along to the next cover, like so. And then we can adjust the mask so that it fits the next roof. And then we can duplicate this again. So press Ctrl D to duplicate. Use the selection tool to bring it to the top of the car here, like so. And then again, using the selection tool, we can adjust the mask, like so. So that it just covers the top of our car. And we can also do the left and the right of the car as well. So let's press Ctrl D again to duplicate. Use the selection tool, move it along, and then just using our mask to cover this up, like so. And then press Ctrl D, move it to this side of the car, and let's extend it. Excellent. Now another thing that you may want to do as well is we can open up our composition, open up masks, open up mask again, and we can also feather the mask as well, just to give it a little bit more of a softer gradient going out. So we can do that to all of our comps. So let's do that to this one as well. So open up mask and then just feather it by about, let's say, 60 to 70. And then the same for the top of the car. So open this up, open up the mask, and we can just input a value of 70, like so. Same for the next one. So let's go for the last two. Open up the mask options, select feather, input a value of 70, and then same for the last one. And input a value of 70. Now you'll find that if we did this for the first composition, we wouldn't have to go through and do the same for all the others as well. So now that we've added a feather, let's go ahead and duplicate our next composition and add this to the top of our vending machine here. Just use the rotate tool to sort of change it to the same angle as what's on the painting. And then just move it into place, like so. Duplicate it again. And then same thing here for the other side. And then just move it into place. Excellent. And now just fit it to the composition. And now finally, once we've done all of the rain bounces, the next thing we want to do, just to aid and reduce the amount of clutter that we've got down here, let's go ahead and select all the rain bounce compositions, right click, pre-compose them, and let's just name this rain bounce comps. Select OK. And now from here, we can select the play preview button to see what our animation looks like. Excellent. So you can see here how our rain bounce animations are all working with our ripple effect animations on the floor. Awesome. So that's it for this video. In the next one, we'll learn how to create a stormy rainfall in the scene. See you all there. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Urban Rain animation course. In this lesson, we'll learn how to create and animate some stormy rain into our scene. So before we do that, first let's go ahead and temporarily hide our bouncing rain animation and also our ripple effect animation here, so that when we want to preview the rain or the way our rain looks, we don't have to render the other animations as well, which will slow down the process. So let's start by creating a new solid. So go to Layer, New, and let's select Solid. And in the solid settings, let's go ahead and rename this BG for background rain, like so. Make sure that the color is set to a pure black, and then select OK. Now with this layer selected, the next thing we want to do is add the effect. So go to Effect, go to Simulation, and now select CC Rainfall, which is over here. Now if we zoom in here, you should be able to see some faint rainfall effects added to the scene, which we can then preview using the preview button. So they're a little bit too faint here, but not to worry, we'll be able to change the look and feel of our rainfall by going over to the Effect Controls panel. So as our rainfall just looks a little bit too faint and also a little bit too straight at the moment, we want to add an angle to it just to suggest some wind. Now let's first change the opacity here a little bit, just so you can see the raindrops in the screen. So changing the opacity to about 50, and then let's just zoom in here like so. Now these settings may need some different settings according to the look and feel of your image, but we'll go through the most important ones just so that you know what they do and how you can play around with them. So in this panel here, in the Effects Control panel, let's change the size from 3 to 2, and that should reduce the amount of raindrops here. So if we zoom in, you should be able to see how that affects the raindrops. So let's just change this back to 2, like so. And then the next thing we want to do is we want to change the depth from 5,000 to something like 7,000. So in order to see how this works, we need to zoom out, and let's change it to 7,000, like so, which just gives the rainfall a little bit more space to animate. And for the speed, we want to change this from 4,000 to something like 1,500, which should reduce the size of the rainfall lines. Now if I bring this up a little bit, the opacity, you should be able to see how this affects the rainfall lines. So let's go back to the speed again. So originally they were at 5,000 or something like that, and you'll see how the rain lines are quite long. So let's go back and change the speed back down to 1,500 to make them a little bit smaller. And for the wind, let's change the wind. So the wind is what will change the angle of our rainfall. So let's give this a value of 700, and you'll see how this gives our rainfall a little bit of an angle. And for this, let's lower the opacity down just a little bit so that it will blend a little bit more with our scene. Excellent. So now once you're done playing with the rain settings, simply set the BG rain layer, the blend mode, to a screen. So let's change this to a screen, and you'll be able to see how the rain is now inside our background. Now we want to put this background rain just below our foreground layer so that it's behind our foreground elements, like so. Excellent. Now all we need to do is hit the play preview button here to see what our animation looks like. So you'll see how the rainfall is now falling down inside our scene. Awesome. Now let's give our rainfall even more depth. So to do this, let's go ahead and duplicate our BG rain layer by pressing Ctrl D on the keyboard, moving this above to the top of our layer stack. And let's go ahead and rename this. So right click, rename, and we're going to rename this FG, foreground rain. Now, the next thing we want to do is we're going to change some of the settings to give the illusion that the rain is a little bit closer to us. So to do this, let's do the following. So for drops, let's change the value from 5,000 to 300 to reduce the amount of rain in the foreground. We want to change the size from 2 to 15 to make the raindrops appear bigger. And we want to change the speed from 1,500 to 7,000, just to increase the size of the lines, like so. Now we want to change the wind so that it matches the angle of the BG rain. So let's go ahead and change that. So this will have to be something like 3,000, like so. And we can also change the variation as well, just to make it a little bit more natural. So let's change it from 0 to 14, just to give it a more natural look. Awesome. Now, if we hit the play preview button, you should be able to see how the rainfall looks. Excellent. So that's how we create stormy rainfall weather in Adobe After Effects. In the next video, we'll be taking a look at how we can enhance our animation even further with the help of Envato elements by adding some lightning flashes and some sound effects. See you all there. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Urban Rain animation course. In this lesson, we'll learn how to enhance our animation even further with the help of Envato elements by adding things like lightning flashes and sound effects. So let's begin by heading over to the website element.envato.com, and from here we can download these resources that we need to complete our animation. So the first is the sound of rainfall. So to get this, simply go to the search bar and let's type in rain. And then we can also specify our search to include only the sound effects by clicking on the drop down box on the left here. And let's go ahead and select sound effects and then hit enter. Now in the results page, simply have a listen to the different rain sounds and download the one that you like. We'll do the same for the thunder sound effect. So simply enter thunder in the search bar. Hit the search button, and then again, simply listen to the results and download the one that you like. Back in After Effects, let's add these sounds into our project by clicking and dragging them into the project panel, like so. Excellent. Now, once they're in, the next thing that we want to do is we want to add a new solid to create our lightning flash. So let's go ahead and go to Layer, and go to New and select Solid. And let's name this Lightning Flash. And we want to change the color of this to pure white, like so. Click OK. Excellent. Now let's go ahead and open up this layer. And we want to set the opacity all the way down to 0. Let's move the layer to around where you want the start of your lightning flash to be in your animation. And then we can add a keyframe for it. So I'm just going to expand this and zoom in so you can see what we're doing. And let's add a keyframe for opacity, like so, by clicking on the stopwatch icon. You can see we've got a keyframe here in our timeline. Excellent. Now let's go ahead and move forwards a little bit. So we want to move forwards 3 or 4 frames. And now we want to add another keyframe. And let's add a keyframe for 75% opacity, like so. And you can see straight away we've got another keyframe here. Move forward 1 frame, and let's make the opacity go back down to 0. Now for our 4th keyframe, let's go ahead and move forward 1 frame again, and we're going to make the opacity back up to 75%, like so. And now for our 5th keyframe, let's go ahead and move forward 1 keyframe again and make the opacity down to 0. And then for our 6th keyframe, let's go ahead and move forwards 1, 2, 3 frames, and let's make the opacity up to 75. And for our 7th and final keyframe, we want to move forwards 15 frames. So let's just count them out here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And on the last frame here, let's go ahead and change the opacity back down to 0. Excellent. Now let's zoom out, and we want to trim this layer to the size of our animation. So let's go ahead and move this down all the way like so. So you can see our last keyframe is over here, so just something like that. And now we'll have, if we play this, we'll have a nice lightning flash, like so. Cool. Now we can go ahead and time our lightning flash to the thunder sound effect. So going over to the roll of thunder sound effect here, let's go ahead and move this down into our layers. And we can actually go ahead and open up the audio like so, so you can see when the sound starts. Now this particular sound effect actually contains multiple thunder sounds, so let's go ahead and trim this down as we only need 1. And zoom back in again. And we're going to move this slightly back a little bit as the sound travels slower than light. And if we go ahead and play this now by clicking on the play preview button, you can see how that all works together. Excellent. Now lastly, we can now add the rainfall sound effects by clicking and dragging it into the scene, like so. Awesome. Now the last thing that you may want to be aware of is if we wanted to extend the sound effect of our rain, all we have to do is select it, press Ctrl D on the keyboard to duplicate, and then just drag it along the timeline so that it fits our entire animation. So you can see how we need to create a couple more, like so. Now just make sure that all your layers are turned back on by clicking on the eye icon here, and then you're ready to render the final animation. Excellent! So with that, we've come to the end of the Urban Rain animation course. I had a lot of fun creating this course, so thanks for watching and good luck creating your own animated rainfall paintings, and I'll see you next time on Tuts Plus.